Hello, welcome back to Soul Search Sunday with Johnny Tiger on March 21st, 2021. I'm just so not used to this 2021 business yet. You would think that we're in March already and I would be uh, well acquainted with 2021, but you know what? For the most part, it still feels like 2020. Yeah, anyway. Welcome to the channel. To all the new subscribers, we have gotten uh, almost three times the amount of subscribers in the last month, and you guys have no idea how happy that makes me. Welcome to all of you. Hope you have a good stay and that you find some rest, entertainment, knowledge, or just a bit of joy in this channel. A couple of days ago, I was reading a book. Uh, oh, and by the way, yeah, just so there's no confusion, uh, for Soul Search Sunday, you usually get a view out my window. You don't get to look at me. Because it is a segment where I can relax and just ramble on a little bit about what I've been contemplating and what I've been meditating on and stuff like that. Some people find this relaxing, some people find this motivational, some people find this inspirational. But because of that, I feel that it's probably a lot better for you guys to look at something more zen, more natural, more mesmerizing than looking at me pacing back and forth across the room. Yeah, I have no idea what kind of view you're getting outside. If you can even see anything, because I imagine right now it is super, super dark. But I was told that the view outside can be very nice sometimes. We have some very nice greenery in our backyard. So, yeah, you guys can let me know how the view is. Anyway, back to book I was reading. In the particular chapter, this was a Chinese book by the way, so don't try to ask me which book this was because it's not an English book. So unless you are a Mandarin reader, uh, I can tell you the book and you wouldn't be able to understand and read it or find it most likely. So in the passage that particularly caught my attention, the main protagonist, the main character, he was trying to close a cash sale, a cash business deal. So he turned around and said to his good friend, he said, "Here is my bank card, and the number is 625554. There's $10,000 in the account. I want you to go and take $3,000 out in cash and then bring it here so we can close this deal. And then also, I need you to transfer $2,000 to this other account." And his best friend looked at him and he said, "How do you know I'm not going to empty out your account and run away with your money?" And our hero of the story said, "Oh, well, because first, I been your best friend. You've been my best friend for a long time, and I usually know who to trust and who not to trust. I trust my own instinct. And secondly, even if in that one in a thousand chance that I got it wrong, and you actually clean me out and run away with my money, I will thank the Lord for letting it happen because I much rather you run away with my money now, and I learn just what kind of a person you are, than having to trust my life to you further down the road and have you betray me and getting me killed in a much worse situation. At least money I can always make back. So if it only cost a few $1,000s for me to learn a lesson, I think that's worth it. Now, of course, we don't know. And if his friend really cleaned him out, if his friend really took his money and ran away, would he feel that nonchalant about it? Would he feel that relaxed about it? But what he said really resonated with me because honestly, for most of my life, for most of my younger life, up until my mid 20s, I was a very black and white, very extreme person. I was like a dynamite. You make me happy, I make you happy. You make me unhappy, I would mess you up. I was the kind of person that have to react to everything with the most immediate feeling that came to my mind. If whatever I felt was positive, then I would react positively. Whatever I felt was negative, then I would react with 3 or 4 times the negative energy that I felt. That was the person I was. And then gradually, I started to mellow out and learn more about how to change the way I feel about things, how to not be so reactive and rather be more introspective, be more thoughtful, and be more appreciative to everything that I experience in life. And that little chapter, that little passage, made me think of this friend I had once by the name of Greg. So today I want to tell you guys about Greg because I think Greg is a worthwhile story to tell. Even though to most people Greg is nothing but a first class bum. Like when you talk about a bum, a leech, a mosquito, a vampire, Greg fulfills almost every one of those descriptors. Even his own father, even his own mother didn't want him around because of how much he wanted to leech off of them. But let me start from the beginning. I first met Greg when I was 22 years old at a sports event. I was the star athlete, and he was one of the volunteer coaches for one of the events. Greg was extremely pleasant and not in a nauseating, oh, you're my best friend, we are buddies, that kind of way. He was very, very pleasant. Like, I'm going to say that he could make you feel like he had your best interest in heart without saying so. He could make you feel like he's your best friend without saying so. He was natural. He had a natural, relaxed, kind of carefree charm that uh, could charm men, women, children, elderly people. On top of that, Greg, I mean, not that that part make any difference to me. I want to specify that I do not uh, enjoy male company that way, but uh, Greg was extremely good looking. 6'2", just over 200 pound, uh, very regular weightlifter with a very uh, toned, very well proportioned physique, quite athletic looking, and on top of that, I'll tell you just so I because I don't think of guys that way, so I don't really know all the right way to describe a good looking guy. But I would say that my mother my mother is one of those Asian older ladies that are how shall we say, kind of racist. Okay, like to my mom, you can be Chinese, Taiwanese, and good looking, or you can be just another race and whatever. She doesn't think of you as good looking or bad looking unless you are Chinese or Taiwanese. That's how she usually is. But the first time my mother met Greg, she actually said something that totally I wasn't expecting. She was like, "Whoa, that guy is hot." Mm-mm-mm. And I was so not expecting that. I was taken by total surprise because I just didn't think that was in my mom's nature to even appreciate another guy that way, never mind a white guy, and that not of her own preferred race. That is how good looking Greg was. So Greg was this athletic, extremely good looking, movie star good looking. A lot of people described him as extremely charming but not overbearing kind of guy. If you imagine the kind of guy that you meet that is so earnest, so down to earth, so easy to talk to, it's like you can tell him all your secret and you know that he will keep your secret and you know that he will never judge you. That's the kind of personality Greg showed the world. A guy like that should have gone really far in the world. A guy like that should have, could have a lot of things he wanted. A guy like that could be very high up on the totem. He was uh, just by those three virtues what some people would describe as an alpha male, but he wasn't. Greg, as it turned out, was a first class leech, a first class bum. I already mentioned that the first time I met Greg, it was at a sport event. We exchanged a few pleasantries and said hello to each other as we ran to each other during the event, and that was it. And then, about 5 weeks later, one night I was cooking dinner, and there was a knock on my door, and there was Greg standing on my doorstep with his worldly belongings, everything that he had, loaded into his car. And he said to me, he said, "Look, hey, I, 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 re- I remember you, and I thought that you would be the right guy to help me because I remember how nice a guy you were at the event, and I really need help." And I was like, "Okay, don't really know you, but come in, Greg. What do you need?" And he said he gave me a story of how his father was a drunk, alcoholic, abusive, and stuff like that, and he kicked him out of the house, and now he's between job, and his school doesn't start for another few months, and he had nowhere to go, and I was the only person he knew in the Vancouver area, and could he please stay at my place until he got things lined up until he got back on his feet. All his worldly possessions, clothes, shoes, everything in his car showed up at my door when we didn't even really knew each other. But I already told you, he was a nice guy. At least he showed the world that he was a nice guy. Uh, I met him at a sport event where he was a volunteer coach, so I automatically assumed that since he was a volunteer coach, he obviously wasn't that bad of a person. And I don't want you to think that this is going to turn to a horror story or anything because it's not. It's not. He really wasn't that bad of a person. I want to, if I could, I would caption the that. Okay. Yeah, so don't let your imagination run away with it. Okay. It wasn't that horrible. Uh, Anyway, so long story short, I told him, okay, I will put you up at my place for a couple of months, as long as you help pay the rent and you help pay for food and cover the cost of living, and you will have three chances. You'll have three chances. Piss me off more than three times, you're out, no matter what. Piss me off, piss me off over three times, you are out. That was the kind of person I was, pretty much the kind of person I am. I usually give people three chances, and if people offend me three times, then I will cut ties with them. The next couple of months with Greg sleeping in on the sofa in my living room gave me a view of a kind of humanity that I was previously a little bit oblivious to. This fully function, functional guy, this guy with fully working eyes and ears, fully working arms and legs, a university education in his head, and well, at least he was in the process of getting a university education. This tall, strong, good looking, smooth talking guy, he turned out to be someone who would get up in the morning and go out and do some odd job and then spend every cent he had on cigarette and beer and prostitute. And then he would come home, drag himself home at the end of the day, totally broke and feeling dejected and having to be at my mercy, at mercy of my wrath, and hear me lecture him on you should not be doing that. I was like his daddy. It was just ridiculous. Um, Me, totally blind, partially deaf, trying to finish my degree while working two part-time jobs at the same time, taking in this fully functional human being, supposedly fully functional human beings, and have to father him and having to put money out for him to pay for food and rent and the time when he didn't even have money for his car, and because if he didn't have money for his car, he couldn't go to work, and so I had to put gas in his car. Suffice to say, in those 2 months that Greg stayed with me, I was out a lot of money. In the end, by the time I booted him out of my life, booted him out of my house, well, okay, it wasn't my house, it was a basement suite I was renting. Uh, Booted him out of my basement suite, I was out over $500. And that's not even counting the money he would owe me for food and rent and cigarettes and gas and stuff like that. Now, why am I thinking of Greg? Because a lot of people, a lot of people including my mother, including some of my best friends, they would say, see, you were too nice. Why would you let a basically stranger stay at your place? Why would you let them in like that? And see, If you have it to do it over again, wouldn't you say no to him? Uh, aren't you uh, aren't you regretting it now? Aren't you regretting that decision now? But I don't, because even then, even when I was 22 years old, 23 years old, I was starting to realize something that I will later learn to control a lot more in my life, which was not everything is completely bad if you are willing to look at what you can learn from it. And despite Greg being no good, uh, prostitute loving, uh, chain smoking, and smooth talking leech, despite of all that, I have learned some things that were so valuable from my association with this first class bum that would benefit me for the rest of my life. Suffice to say, suffice to say, ever since I ever since that 2 months that I let Greg stay at my place, I have been quite a different person when it comes to socializing with people. What do I mean by that? Well, prior to meeting Greg, I was a very cold and aloof person uh, on first impression. Whenever I met people, I felt no need to small talk. I felt very little need to start conversation. I tend to answer most questions I deemed beneath me with one word or two word answers. I was very cold and distant bastard. A lot of people say until they got to know me. Now, once they got to know me, then I became very conversational and I became very helpful and friendly. But at first impression, I was always that cold and silent guy. But while I was associated with Greg, while I spent every day lecturing him that he needed to turn his life around, that a able bodied person like him shouldn't be such a bum, while I was lecturing him, hoping that he would change for the better, I was observing him because I saw in Greg something that I always wished I had, but I never did. I saw the ability to charm. I saw his charisma. I saw in him a charisma that was infatuating, that was able to work no matter on men, women, children, or elderly citizens. I wanted that for myself. I would kill for that charisma. So I started thinking to myself, so what is it that make him able to do that? Obviously, his good look helped, but that shouldn't account for as much because good look is um, not everyone think good look account for as much, and obviously it shouldn't work for that many guys. Uh, so it's not just his look. So what about him that made him everyone's best friend on first impression? And then I realized what it was. It was his selfless nature. It was him appearing not self-conscious at all. Him appear to not have an ego. Him appear to be totally, genuinely concerned about what you want to talk about, what you like, what you find enjoyable to talk about. So I started trying to assimilate what I saw in Greg while he was uh, aggravating the heck out of me every day. And even though, to be honest, I'm still nowhere. in Greg's league today because I'm not 6'2" and I don't have the drop dead movie star look. Uh, but ever since our association with each other, I became such a different person when I socialized. Now I no longer feel uptight. Now I no longer feel the need to distance. Now I no longer feel the need to be self-conscious. Now, no matter who I talk to, I can be talking to a millionaire, and I can be talking to a homeless person. I can be talking to an elderly person. I can be talking to children. I feel perfectly comfortable just laying my personality out there and try to embrace whatever topic they want to talk about. I still cannot charm as many people as Greg could, but my life has improved for the better ever since I started to copy what Greg was so perfect at. That was probably the biggest contribution Greg and association with Greg made to my life, but not the only thing. There were other things that Greg taught me during our association that were very valuable. A lot of these are not really skills that I would need, or I hope I never need them. But if I ever need them, they are very valuable. Just giving you two examples, and hopefully you guys never need these skills, but if you ever get in a really tight spot in your life, these might help you out. First is if you are homeless, hungry, find a restaurant, preferably KFC or McDonald's or Starbucks, and go in there close to closing hour as you can without being obvious, and don't make yourself standing out there in the doorway like a beggar. Go in there and sit around reading a book or order a cup of coffee or something cheap. It's almost certain that by closing hours, especially if you turn on your charm, especially if you practice how to be charming, like Greg could, like I try to. If you turn on your charm and you're clean and you're not a nuisance, they will give you everything that is left over that day that were going to get thrown out anyway. And usually you are going to get more than one meal worth of food and goodies out of that. Okay? I hope no one's ever going to use it. I hope I never have to use this trick, but I have seen Greg done this multiple times, worked like a charm every single time. So that is one of the survival tips I learned from Greg. Second survival tip I learned from Greg. This one is a little bit like a scam or a con. So again, I hope you never have to use it. I hope I never have to use it. But if you ever get into a really tight spot, it is a useful thing to know. Let's say you only have $2 in your pocket. That's the only money left to your name, and you don't have enough money to get a full meal at McDonald's. Wait outside and see who come out with a lot of food, a lot of bags. When you spot that person, politely approach them and ask if you can spend the $2 to buy their receipt from them. Right? That person will either say yes or they'll say no, or they say they throw the receipt away. But if they say yes, then you can take that receipt and go to a different McDonald's, go up to the counter and said, "Here's my receipt. I ordered these, and the food was bad, the price was cold, and the hamburger was frozen in the middle." Whatever. 9 out of 10 times, you will get that free meal. You will get free meal exactly what was on the receipt. Because McDonald's, the staff in McDonald's for the most part, were trained not to argue with customers. It doesn't cost them much to give you a free meal. It costs them a lot to stand there and argue with you and possibly get in a bit of a publicity problem. Okay, like I said, this is kind of like a scam, but in a pinch, again, I saw Greg do this multiple times, and didn't work every time, but most of the time it worked out like a charm. These are just two of the survival tips I learned from this bomb. I learned from this leech that I think it's more worthwhile than a lot of things we can learn in school, in college, in university. These are true, real life survival tips that can possibly prevent a person from starving to death. My nanny, Maru, who brought me up like I was her own son, often, even to this day, tell me that whenever someone hurts you, whenever someone cheat you, whenever someone take advantage of you or otherwise offend you, always remember to thank them in your heart because there's always a lesson to be learned when bad things happen, and it is up to you to grasp that lesson and grow into a better and stronger person. And I believe that the book that I read and my association with this first class bomb, like Greg, definitely were examples of what Maru has always tried to teach me. Thank you for checking out today's Soul Search Sunday. We'll be back again tomorrow for Music Monday. For now, have a good night.